I wanted to do a film with Sun Ra. A Sun Ra live performance is an extraordinary experience for an audience. You're swept up. You feel like you're part of the action, and the orchestra invites you in a way that no other live performance experience in my memory does. I felt there must be a way to film this effectively. And having worked with John, I went first to John, who is still producing in KQED, I believe. And John was eager to be involved, and I think the first idea we had was to go into the San Francisco Planetarium in Golden Gate Park and bring the orchestra in there, and somehow, I don't know how we were going to film the star show and the orchestra and record the music in this environment, but we did get them over there, and we did enjoy the star show, but that's as far as it went.
Eventually we settled on the idea that we would do a feature film of the dramatic script. And Jim had the vision to bring a number of people onto that project who were able to come up with an idea that was an effective one. And my love of cheesy science fiction films somehow got wrapped into that, and somehow it all fits together. The special effects for this film were an homage to cheesy science fiction features of the 50s and 60s. One of my favorite genres, Robert L. Lippert's Rocket Ship XM, Catwomen of Outer Space, that kind of material. So in a sense, this film, besides the raw philosophy, is in part a satire on those films. But that particular genre happens to fit organically, directly with the raw myth. So it's I think, a wonderful marriage of style and form. The special effects for this film clearly were done on the cheap, but they were done by some very talented people. Making the spaceship land was done with the old blue screen technique, where you shoot a background plate, which is a moving scene, and then you shoot the model in front of a blue screen, and you make a number of strips of film that allow you to superimpose it without it being transparent. It's called the traveling matte process. This was all done in 16 millimeter. There's some wonderful technicians at that time in San Francisco who were capable of doing that in 16 millimeter. Nobody has those particular skills today, and we do it with electronically and digitally. But we had a very good time doing the special effects. Ra was a person who I suspect never totally finished a work. All works were in evolution, as long as they were in repertoire. I think he saw the film as that, but of course that is not the reality of film production, nor the economics of it.
Sun Ra never would concede that the project was finished, and he was always concerned with adding more beauty. There wasn't enough beauty in the film to satisfy him. And so I would send back box loads of work print to him, which apparently he had at some point attempted to edit. And I was trying to keep him happy, and I guess I would have to confess to keep him somewhat off my case, because I had been through hell and back to get this project to where we got it in 1974, and I just wanted to get it out there and be done with it. And he didn't want to let me do that.
When we shot the recording session with the orchestra, we filmed that on a very large soundstage, which at that time was controlled by the Mitchell brothers of San Francisco, who produced their own style of epic on that stage. And we actually shared some expenses with them on their production of Behind the Green Door, in which we built up a basic platform, which we used to put the band on, and they used for other purposes. And it was sort of a historic coincidence that these two productions were happening at the same time, and I can remember going onto that stage floor with Sun Ra to talk about the angles and the way we were going to arrange the orchestra, and there were various Mitchell Brothers cast members lounging around, and not in total undress, but they're obviously waiting to go on, and the camera operator was waiting to film them. Every element of performance that he was involved with, he had perfected before it got to the point of shooting it, so that the band performances were perfect. His lines, which he wrote himself, by the way, you should know that he wrote all of his own lines, and he did write them, are perfect. I think was an amazing, totally creative person. And he never dropped out of character for us, and he was not a person who was ever distracted, and there were plenty of distractions both from his organization and from our organization. But I actually thought the two organizations worked extremely well together.
My association with Sun Ra was a musical high point, certainly, in my life, as well as a high point on many other more philosophical planes. But I suppose I would say that since that time, especially in recent years, I've been very much involved in the world of new music through the Other Minds Festival in San Francisco, and we just actually missed Sun Ra because our first festival opened in the same year that Sun Ra passed on. And he definitely would have been a prime candidate for an appearance with his orchestra at our festival.
I think this is a film that anyone who wants to understand the early 70s and the great dislocations that American society went through in that period, in the Nixon portion of the Vietnam War, when Henry Kissinger was making very strange statements about how he was going to end the war that didn't end for years. What that did to individuals in America, and what that did to minorities in America. So I think this film is an important way to learn about that. So in a sense, it's an educational film. It's a great cultural statement. It's a great record of a man who created a myth about himself to support his composition. If he'd been an Italian in the 19th century, maybe he would have written Tosca, but expressed it that way through operatic drama. But Ra expressed it through this personal myth, and this captures that myth, and it captures it in a way that puts him into that time of dislocation towards the end of the Vietnam era.
Essentially, Sun Ra was here as a messenger, and he was here to provide a hopeful and positive message for the people that needed it and weren't getting it, and could have it through music, but weren't even getting that in the way that he felt that they could. And this was his lifelong mission, and I think the film represents this beautifully.